That was like such an awful day at work. At least I can like play my favorite game now. I can finally play this game. Wait, what do you mean Femboy Roommate's been banned? No, it's fine, I can always support my favorite furry artist. Right? Like it's all I can. I can't? Oh my god, this is awful. I mean, I guess I could always go to Steam and play Baldur's Gate 3. That's a good idea, right, Shirley? What? Adult games are getting removed off Steam too? Your favorite game is going to get banned. Fear and Hunger was already removed from Itchio alongside many other games. Next, Steam is going to completely overhaul their entire platform to remove any game that can be considered adult. This includes games from Baldur's Gate 3 to Honey Pot and everything in between. Some of you might say this is never going to happen, but it has. Like I said, Itch.io has already done this, and Steam, we are just waiting for them to enforce rule number 15. That's right, they have a rule in place already. Content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet provider. In particular, certain kinds of adult-only games. Before we continue, I put a petition on my Linktree to stop what is going on. I want you to go sign up now before you forget. I will talk more about it later, but right now, I want you to go sign it right now. So they're only removing adult games, so what is considered adult? Surely we're only talking about like, Gooner games, right? Well, if you read Rule 15 like I just read to you, it says anything that is adult. What are some games that are considered adult? Well, we got Call of Duty, GTA, Gears of War, Death Stranding 2, Metal Gear. Even games like Rimworld could potentially be removed. Fear and Hunger isn't a Gooner game, and it was removed for sexual content. I want to preface, it is anything that can be considered adult or against the terms of service for these payment processors. What is going on is payment processors and card services like Visa and Mastercard are dictating what consumers are allowed to buy with their own money. Because, we live in the freest market in the world. These companies are afraid of being associated with things that they may not like or believe in, or just they think are morally icky. Because, we live in the freest market in the world where the consumer can buy what they want. The way these payment processors enforce their ideology and morals is by threatening these other companies, telling them they have to remove this stuff or they will stop supporting their company. Because we live in the freest market in the world and you can choose any payment processor you want. Naturally, Visa and MasterCard just so happen to be some of the biggest payment processors in the US because we live in the freest market in the world. Great, we've established the problem here, so why don't we just move on to Cash App? Or, Discover Card. I already made a TikTok about this, and some people started suggesting we just move on to different payment processors because that's such a good idea. Now, some things that people suggested were Cash App and Venmo, which are peer-to-peer, and those are a thing. Now, they have individual issues like them having less security than, say, Visa and MasterCard do, but that's not the thing I want to focus on. These companies like Steam, Itch, and others are being threatened by payment processors and have caved already, which means that any payment processor can threaten and force these companies to adhere to their will. And now that the groundwork has already been laid, a fun fact, it can happen again. And for other payment processors like PayPal and American Express, they actually have a history of doing things like this because they don't like adult workers. They have a history of debanking them and forcing them to not work with each other. And with things like Visa and MasterCard, they've done this before on a specific fan site way back when, I think it was 2019, they banned a bunch of things off that platform. I can't say which one though, because YouTube. Who's to say that Aerodin is going to be any different than Visa and MasterCard, PayPal, American Express? Who's to say that Cash App, that I'm pretty sure uses Visa as their card processor, is gonna be better? Who's to say this won't happen again, So there's a little group called Collective Shout. Collective Shout is a self-described feminist group that holds anti-SW values, and its co-founder is pro-forced birth. Collective Shout takes full responsibility on their website for pressuring Visa and MasterCard to force websites like Steam and Itchio to remove the content that they host on there. Collective Shout claims that they are trying to end the normalization of abuse of women, animals, and children. These are great things to stand for, right? But you can't be pro-woman and pro-forced birth. You also can't be a feminist and anti-SW. I'm sorry, it's mostly women doing that because they don't have another option. It's not very feminist to say you're not valid and you have to pursue more dangerous forms of work. I'm sorry. This isn't even to mention the fact that games aren't even the main issue that normalizes the violence against women, animals, and children. If Collective Shout actually believed in anything they've said, they would have at least mentioned and denounced the current ruling administration of the United States. You don't understand. When I say mentioning literally anything, I mean they haven't mentioned literally anything about Trump. And I get it. You know, when we're talking about these difficult issues, especially with social movements, sometimes we gotta start small and work our way up, right? Because we can't just tackle the biggest problem head on. Like, we gotta work on the things that lead up to, we gotta work on the things that are most immediate, etc., etc. But Collective Shout hasn't ever addressed the big fish, right? Like, ever. Never, ever, ever. And I'm pretty sure they're never going to. Because why? I don't think they support women. Collective Shout is very, very clearly wearing the protection of women and kids like a shield, the same way Donald Trump does when he writes anti-trans bills. And that's not a good look. This is my opinion, y'all, but something tells me Collective Shout might just be a bunch of prudes. Like, honestly. Collective Shout very clearly stopped progressing in the second wave of feminism between the 1960s and the 1990s. For context, we are on the fourth wave of feminism. The second wave is categorized by pushing for promoting women's voices and social movement and just overall advocacy of women in the middle and upper class. The biggest critique of this movement, though, was the lack of voices of working class women and black women, and pretty much anyone else. That's right, the second wave of feminism is devoid of most women. The term intersectionality actually didn't even exist in the feminist lexicon until I think it was 1989, which is the very end of the second wave feminism movement. We were moving on to the third wave of feminism. The second wave of feminism is a far cry from the progress that we have made over the last 30 years. The fact that we keep having to talk about second wave feminist issues and it keeps coming up is really frustrating because this is not the first time I've seen this, right? Collective Shout is a symptom of a bigger problem. What voices are famously missing from Collective Shout? That's right, most women. And the thing is that Collective Shout just conveniently ignores most women in their advertisements because I don't think they've ever talked about trans people ever on their platform. Nor do you really see them center black voices or black content on there. Because of course the group that's only white women from Australia would not want to talk about BIPOC. While Googling Collective Shout, I learned a lot about their creators, so I'm gonna read some stuff off to you, and I'm just let you infer what you got. Reese, the co-founder and director of Collective Shout, is a Christian woman who speaks at Christian forums and writes for a Christian newspaper. She is also a self-described Christian. She is pro-forced birth and is self-described as a radfem. For context, radfems are the same people as TERFs, hence, trans-exclusionary radical feminist. Reese hates the idea of lingerie for women, in reference to ads of it. She also hates 50 Shades of Grey, and not for the fact that it's a fan fiction of, Twilight, but because, women like to have fun sometimes. She tried getting Detroit Become Human banned. Oh, did I mention that she got Tyler, the Creator's Australian Visa banned once? I just noticed this, but on her Wikipedia page, it says conservative under subject, so, I didn't say Wikipedia did. Okay, so what can we do about it? Collective Shout is a problem, right? But what can we do right now? Well, like I said before, there is a petition on my Linktree from the ACLU to stop this very thing. Now, it is in reference to MasterCard and their abusive policies directly affecting SWs and adult work. This would include the Steam ban games, as well as pretty much everything that Collective Shout stands for. Because let's be honest here, 90% of their thing is just hating on women in the industry. I know someone's gonna ask, how is SW related to my Steam game? Like, I just wanna play Baldur's Gate. If a payment processor can dictate what you buy, what's to stop them from moving the goalposts from Gooner games to games that show violence or games that show queer people? The problem is that we are only as strong as our weakest link. Your neighbor and you need to have the same protections or both of you are going away. The other thing is that we need to not let Collective Shout control the narrative. We need to speak up and voice our opinions. No one wants this. This is blatant censorship that's only going to spiral out of control. This is not a slippery slope fallacy. This has happened already in the UK. It's gonna happen again, and we need to prevent it. This isn't the only group that weaponizes women's voices and experiences to push an agenda. It is extremely common for extremist groups and bigoted groups to weaponize the voices and experiences of the oppressed and the people. Finally, we need to admit what these types of groups are. I'm not saying that Collective Shout is a psyop started by the CIA or like is in cohorts with the Trump administration. But let's be honest here. They hold bigoted views. They hold views that Republicans would adore. Terms historically side with incels and Republicans because they have no other allies. If your core beliefs can be shared among some of the worst people ever, maybe your beliefs are kind of messed up. I want to talk about this topic today on this video because I am genuinely worried that I'm going to get legislated out of making content. And that's not a good thing. I don't particularly want to get banned out of doing my job because I enjoy doing it and I like sharing it with you. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating that these organizations have so much sway over people's lives. Like, their team is like 7 people, by the way. Like, it's not a lot, and they're dictating foreign policy for the entirety of the world, right? It's messed up. It's messed up. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you heard me screaming at the top of my lungs. For context, it's like 2 in the morning. I'm sure my neighbors love me. I want to give a special thank you to my editor Sky and my Patreon subs. If you want to support the channel, give me a subscribe, give me a like. Go to my Patreon. I do free things all the time on there. But if anything, please go sign that petition like right now. Like, it's really important. It's linked on my Linktree. We're almost there to the goal. So if you can, go do that. Bye-bye.